Welcome to Dr. K Speaks. I'm Dr. K, and I'm here to help you to navigate through the many challenges in your life's journey so that you might ultimately become the highest version of yourself. Right now, I'm going to talk about how there is power in self awareness. That's right, self awareness gives you power. When you embark upon that journey of becoming the highest version of yourself, it is so key that you have as much self awareness as you can possibly have. Reason being is that there could be an aspect of your personality that gets in the way of all the things that you try to accomplish. There can be an aspect of your personality that creates drama in your life and does a lot of things to create a lot of distress. Have you ever heard of anybody saying, watch out, she's got that other side, or his other side is getting ready to come out? Or maybe you've even recognized that there is another aspect of your personality that you have within. Now, I'm not talking about any mental health issues. I'm just talking about how there are various aspects to our beingness. We are multidimensional beings. And sometimes we have other selves, if you will, lurking in the background, and it'll get in the way of us experiencing peace, happiness, or accomplishing whatever it is that we want to accomplish in life. Let me give you some examples. Let me talk about the saboteur. The saboteur is a sub personality that will sabotage different things that you might be trying to do. The saboteur will throw the ball to the other team in a basketball game. Now, say, for example, you are in a relationship and you like the relationship and you want closeness in a relationship, but you end up saying and doing some negative things that creates drama and distress in the relationship. These things create distance. What could be happening is that, say you were a child and you experienced a lot of hurt from your parents or your caregivers, and then you decided that I never want to be hurt like that again. So then subconsciously you might develop a saboteur that will, in any relationship you get in, try to keep you from getting hurt. Or maybe something didn't happen bad in your childhood, but maybe you were in a relationship and you were really, really hurt and you don't ever want to experience hurt again. Well, now again, you would do different things to create distance between you and that person, and it'll be subconscious because the more close we are to people, the more vulnerable we are. And the more vulnerable we are, then the more we can get hurt. So the saboteur would work in your life in this way. Say you are in a relationship and you, like I said, you really want that relationship and you want a healthy relationship, and you and this other person are experiencing all of this closeness and it just feels so good. Then all of a sudden you find yourself making negative remarks, maybe being passive aggressive or saying or doing something that creates an argument. And then because you really, really want to be close and you realize you messed up, then you start apologizing for what it is that you did and start doing a lot of loving and caring things to try to bring that closeness back. So then you find yourself in episodes of push, pull, push, pull in that relationship where you're pushing the person away, but then you're pulling them back in by apologizing because you really are truly sorry for those things that you said and did. Well, that's how the saboteur could be working in your life. Now let me talk about another sub-personality, the inner child. Say you have a wounded inner child that is feeling a sense of abandonment, guilt, shame. So then you might find yourself being an adult who is constantly seeking love, attention, and affection from other people. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to soothe that inner child within yourself that's feeling all of this abandonment and hurt. Now let's talk about the shadow self. The shadow self is that aspect of self that you really want to keep in the shadows, in the dark. It's that aspect of self that you find undesirable and you don't believe that you will be welcomed, or that part of yourself will be welcomed, accepted, or loved by others. The shadow self could be about jealousy. The shadow self can be about prejudice. The shadow self can be cruel. The shadow self can have a hunger for power. So then what will happen is, if you have any of that going on within yourself, that shadow self will be something that you would try to keep in the shadows, in the dark. And as life would have it, as I'm sure you already know, whatever it is that's in the dark will eventually come to the light. So whatever is going on in your subconscious mind with your shadow self will eventually show up in your life. It'll manifest itself in your life in various forms. What you do in the dark, or what's happening in the dark, will show up in the light. You can heal. You can change, whether you have a sub-personality or a shadow self. But first, you have to become aware of it. So it's going to be important for you to start observing yourself, paying more attention to yourself. At any given moment, ask yourself, what am I thinking about? Why am I doing this? Why did I just say that? Because see, when you start paying more attention to yourself, then you might become aware of some sub-personality selves at play, or your shadow self at play. So you gotta pay attention to yourself. That's very, very key. So now some exercises to help you to get more in touch with those different sides of yourself, so that you can work with them, so that you can heal, so that you no longer have these aspects of yourself getting in the way of what you're trying to do in your life. Journaling is a good exercise. How would journaling work? Well, journaling would work by you asking a sub-personality or shadow self, what are you about? Why are you here in my life? What concerns do you have for me? How old are you? That's right. You can ask, how old are they? Because with a sub-personality, for example, it could be an inner child. And with the inner child, if you're an adult, of course, that inner child is much younger than you are. So that inner child would have developed in your childhood, and it still thinks and would have you acting from the perspective of a child. So yes, that's a good question, asking how old they are. Another exercise with journaling is you can ask these aspects to introduce themselves to the world through you. And then you hold your pen, and whatever comes to mind, you just write it out without judgment. And a good way to do this is with your non-dominant hand, because when you write with your non-dominant hand, you're not used to writing with that hand, so you're more likely to get straight to the point. Another exercise you can do is visualization. I've loved the visualization work that I've done. I had worked with sub-personalities and my shadow selves about 30 years ago when I first found out about this type of work. And the visualizations were really, really fun, because I would close my eyes and ask my other self or other selves to show up for me, because I wanted to meet them. And really, really interesting, my selves would show up in this thing like a boardroom, and an oval shaped table, and a different personality self might be sitting at the table, or sometimes I would bring them all in, especially if there was a situation going on in my life and I had a lot of noise in my head, because one part of me wanted to handle the situation this way, another part of me wanted to handle it that way. And so a good way to just quiet down the noise that's in your head, if you ever have that happening, is to invite your sub personalities to the table if you've already become aware of them. So then I would invite them to the table and say, hey, this is the deal, and let each one of them speak. Now, I really want to say something that's very key. When your sub personalities are talking to you, or even your shadow self, when it's talking to you, you do not want to judge anything that it says, no matter how irrational, how illogical it is. Once it's shared with you, then just say something like, thank you for sharing. Another exercise that you can use for self-awareness is to write down your strengths, write down your weaknesses, and write down your triggers. Because once you write those down, then now you're looking at them and it's making you more aware of your strengths, more aware of what weaknesses you have, and more aware of your triggers. And something that's really important to do is a self-evaluation. And I would recommend using a scale of 1 to 10, where, say, if you have a goal for yourself, and 10 would be whatever that goal is, and 1 would be the farthest thing away from the goal. Honestly, ask yourself, where am I at on the scale of 1 to 10? And if you're at a 3, that's okay, because you want to ask yourself, what do you need to do to get from a 3 to a 4? Then once you get to the 4, what do you need to do to get from a 4 to a 5? All of this is important because you need to know where you are relative to your goal, relative to that 10. So all of these exercises that I shared can be really beneficial. I've done them all. And the more self-awareness you have, the more you're in the driver's seat of your life. And if you're trying to become the highest version of yourself, then of course, whatever those lower versions are, those lower aspects of self that would get in the way and sabotage whatever it is you're trying to do, you want to be able to identify those, and you want to be able to work with them and heal so that they're no longer functioning behind the scenes. Because even if you're not aware of them, they will still have their way in influencing your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. So I encourage you to use any of those exercises that I suggested. And if you come up with some of your own, then that's fine and well. But start learning about the many aspects of yourself. And you'd be surprised. You will probably have at least one if you haven't done this work already. I know it sounds way out there, but it's really fun. So I recommend that you get started as soon as possible, getting in touch with those aspects of yourself. You can do this. Move forward. Work towards becoming the highest version of yourself. And I want to say thank you everybody for listening to this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel so that you can get more information on how to become the best version of yourself. Thank you.